Good afternoon. Thank you very much. Good afternoon indeed. Welcome to the afternoon plenary session. As you can see in front of us, we have a very exciting student panel for you. Before we go in that direction, however, as you know, any conference is successful because of the efforts of those who support the conference itself. And we are pleased, the National Institute for the Study of Transfer Students, to have a new and burgeoning relationship with our colleagues at NACAC, the National Association for College Admission Counseling. I have had the pleasure since October of serving on the NACAC Board of Directors, and I can tell you NACAC has an amazing commitment to transfer. This is a group that serves over 16,000 admission professionals, many of whom are in this room right now, and it's very important that transfer be a part of that conversation further and further back into the secondary school system. So we've got the luxury with NACAC of having folks who are in the secondary system and the post-secondary working together so very closely to help our students get access to higher education. So I'm thrilled at this point in time to turn the mic over to Kim Johnston to give us greetings on behalf of NACAC.
Thank you. It's great to be here. This is my second NIST conference, and it's the third year that we have served as sponsors, and we're so excited to be partnering with NIST for another year, and very excited to have Dr. Marling on our board of directors. She's really providing some valuable insight for us. For over 80 years, NACAC has worked on the college transition process, helping students make the transition from high school to college. But as you all know, that sort of traditional 18 to 24-year-old going straight to school, that's not necessarily the model anymore. So transfer has been more on our radar, and particularly in the last couple of years, we've really focused on the work that we do around transfer students and helping them, or helping you help them, make the transition. We have had an ad hoc advisory committee on transfer issues. It was a 2-year committee. They just issued their final report at our conference last September. And in our strategic planning process, we are trying to inculcate transfer issues into much of our programming, our messaging. We've made a commitment to have transfer sessions for each of our educational sessions at our conference this year, so we're really working along those lines with our education and training. As recently as December, one of our webinars was around transfer issues, and if you're not able to be involved with any of those, I would also have you go to our website. We have anything from transfer fee waiver forms, application fee waivers. There's a transfer knowledge hub that is open source, so anybody, members or not, can have access to that and look at some of the resources that we have there. We also have a special, one of our 26 special interest groups is Transfer and Community College, and they meet at our conference, but they also have online conversations about transfer issues. So we would certainly love to have you as members. I refer to us as the senders and receivers in the admission process. So whether you're at a community college advising students about the transfer process, or you're at a 4-year institution or even a 2-year institution in the admissions office, we'd love to have you become a member of NACAC. But if you're not able to do that, know that we have resources that are out there for you to use with your students and to help students in the process. And know that we're committed to providing resources and helping professionals who help those transfer students make the transition as easy as possible. So thank you for being here. Thank you for all the work you do on behalf of your students, and I'm looking forward to speaking with you during the rest of the conference. And thank you for having us.
Thank you, Kim. We talk about things that make conferences go smoothly, and I'd like to take a minute to introduce a team without whom we simply could not function. The team in the back of the room, they have so kindly joined us, taking a little bit of a break from their stations, but I would like to introduce you to Ms. Laura DeBlois. Laura, if you'll raise your hand, please. She is the face behind the emails that you receive on such basis, and I know it's always fun for her to say, welcome, I know so much about you, yet I've never met you. And so that's always one of the most fun parts of Laura's job, is to actually get to see all of you whom she's been serving over the course of the registration period. So Laura serves as our office administrator and administrative assistant for the NISTS, and with her are her student staff. So if you're a student staff member in NISTS, please smile and wave and say hello. Great, we're glad to have all of you with us as well. We have commandeered the Office of Transition Program staff from the University of North Georgia to be helpful to us as well, and they span across 4 of our campuses. So we've got representatives from 3 of those campuses with us today. So if you are OTP-related folks, raise your hands and say hello. And then we have Mr. Wonderful, if you will. We have had the pleasure of hiring a Student Success Technology Coordinator. I recommend that you write that title down because it's phenomenal. Student Success Technology Coordinator in Gabriel Jones. And what he has been able to do for us is really link the expertise needed from a digital perspective with the outcomes needed for our students. And the projects that he works on are vast, but the template that we use and kind of the litmus test is, will this improve student success? Because as you can imagine, we have a ton of projects through NISTS and the Division of Student Affairs and Enrollment Management that he could be working on, multitude of web pages, et cetera. But if it's not something that doesn't directly affect student success, it doesn't happen in his portfolio. So we are thrilled to have Gabe on board, and thank you for all your work on the conference as well. All right, team, I appreciate you immensely, and you don't have to stand up any longer. We appreciate you. Thank you so very much. Well, the folks in front of you had a little bit of a journey to get here, and I don't mean geographically, although you will hear that they are certainly representative of our students from across the United States. But we started an officials ambassador program in 2012, but suspended it until last year. This is a national transfer ambassadors program. These students had to go through an application process. They completed a video, they completed an essay, they spoke to us about their transfer journey, their pathways, the ways they felt like they had been served and unserved, or not so well served. And so from that perspective, we culled through 50 applications for these 5 slots. And as you can imagine, that was a very difficult process to determine whom would be joining us at the annual conference. During this conference, they've had an opportunity to spend some time together, learning about each other's backgrounds, learning about the field of transfer. It's really exciting for them to know that people are actually studying them, right? I bet that was kind of a new thing for all of you, wasn't it? Well, we also have 2, I would say, alumni of the program, and if I could get Max, if you wouldn't mind standing for just a few minutes. And Milka, are you in the audience as well? Yes, right here, right in front of my face. Turn around and smile and wave. These are folks who were ambassadors last year, and again, as you can imagine, some of this is self-serving because we know if we can get these folks involved in transfer that they're going to be sitting in your shoes one day and doing great things from a practitioner as well as a research perspective. So thank you for coming back. We're anxious to hear more about what you're doing these days. And at this point in time, I'd like to invite Dantrayl Smith, Dr. Dantrayl Smith, yes, coming to us as the Assistant Director of Transfer Student Services at the University of Texas at Arlington, and he has been shepherding this group the last couple of days. So, Dantrayl.
All right, appreciate it. We can give her a round of applause. I am going to take the mic and move around a little bit. All right, good afternoon, everybody. Welcome. Thank you all for coming. You all are in for a treat. We have some wonderful students here that are going to share with you their personal testimonies about their experience as a transfer student, but then also talk to you about some of the challenges and different things that they had to face. Like I said, my name is Dantrayl Smith. I'm from the great city of Memphis in the house. Best city in the world for barbecue? Oh, no love for the barbecue. That's all right. So before we begin, I would like to give my panel an opportunity to introduce themselves. And so if you want to just take it away.
My name is David. My name is David Neuen, and I'm a junior at UCLA. I'm majoring in sociology and double minoring in education and statistics. And I attended 7 community colleges for 6 years before I transferred to UCLA. And we were supposed to talk about why we chose our transfer institution. So I chose UCLA because there were professors who studied community college at UCLA, and UCLA also houses the Center for Community College Partnerships, which is really doing some really great work with California community colleges. And after I graduate, I'll hopefully be pursuing a sociology PhD and becoming an education professor who conducts research on community college.
Hello, hello. Can everybody hear me? All right, cool, cool. That's excellent, excellent. My name is Jordan Gomes. I'm from the great city of San Francisco, California, born and raised, one of the few. Currently, my major is neurological psychology, and I picked that. Oh, yeah, all right. Hold the applause till later, But I just picked that because the brain really fascinates me. I initially started out at Loyola University of New Orleans as a bio major, and I just found out that school wasn't a fit for me. And I ended up transferring to Santa Rosa Junior College in California, where I played football for some time, and then I ended up transferring to St. Mary's in California. And I love that school because not only is it a fostering environment where they try to help my education grow, but also it's a nice community environment where it's like I know everybody on campus and everybody knows me, so it's easy to get what I need, and if I need help, it's easy to just ask somebody. So yeah, I'll save all the stories for later.
Good afternoon. My name is Erin Georgia, and I'm now from Birmingham, Alabama. My mom's side of the family is from there, but that's not where I grew up. I'm currently attending Samford University. Sam, not Stanford. We're a private institute based out of Birmingham, Alabama. I transferred from Jefferson State Community College. I got my Associate of Arts there, and now I'm an organizational leadership major in an adult education program. So it's specifically for non-traditional students, adults that have 3 kids or, you know, a family and a job and things like that. I'm prior military, so I served in the United States Marine Corps. So thank you. That's always very humbling. Thank you. So when I went to Jeff State, I started off as a culinary major because I had my GI Bill. It was better to go to school than to find a job, and we really needed a little bit of income. So, but then about a couple of months into it, I discovered that, hey, I'm actually pretty good at this school thing. And, but it had been 15 years since I had been in a college. Actually, I never went to college, so it had been 15 years since I was in any type of non-military education. But I had lots of military education, so it was just a different, slower-paced learning. And so I'm at Samford University. I'm what you call, I'll be a 2x2. I didn't know that terminology before I got here, so I spent 2 years there, and I'll be done next year at Samford. And I transferred there because it would take the most of my credits. I did research ahead of time, you know, where am I going to transfer afterwards? And they're very seamless. They just took my Associate of Arts and they checked the box. So I came in as a junior. So that's about all. I've had a lot of other crazy experiences, but maybe those will come out in the long run. So thank you so much.
Hello, I'm Bianca Dirige. I'm from San Francisco, California. So I'm a first-generation college student, and none of my family ever attended college or even had any idea of like what to do or even how to apply. But I did have help from an outer source. So right out of high school, I went to school in Louisiana. It was like a bridging program between LSU, Louisiana State University, and Baton Rouge Community College. I didn't really succeed academically that first year, so I went back home, saved money, and just figured out what I wanted to do with my life, my career. So then I went to City College of San Francisco for 1 year, and then now I'm currently attending Xavier University of Louisiana. I am a biology pre-med major with a minor in Spanish and chemistry, and I've been on the dean's list since I got there, and I'm very excited for what it's going to do. Thank you.
Oh yeah, and the funny story is these two actually went to high school together. Small world, no? So, and it's a holistic process to get here, so they just happen to both be chosen for this program. So, small, small world. Can't hear me. Can you hear me? No. Okay. I'll hug the mic. So I actually have a little bit of a funny story to say about this panel. We almost became the death panel. 2 people up here are actually allergic to shellfish, and I'm not sure if you guys recognize what was on the salad. I learned a lot about these guys in the last about hour, so it was a really good time. Anyway, I'm Hillary Allen. I actually am from LA, Orange County. Hail from Nashville, Tennessee. Now I know, big change. Big change. Woo! Yeah! I'll have to talk with you afterwards. Anyway, I go to Lipscomb University now. It's a small private Christian college just south of Nashville. And there I study computer engineering, which if I know all of you have heard the term transfer shock. Well, in engineering, it's got a whole different magnitude. Like, I'll just let that happen, let that sit there. I came from Columbia State Community College, which is historically Tennessee's first community college. And I think in the nation it's actually qualified as the first community college, junior colleges aside and whatnot. And while I was there, I was a member of Phi Theta Kappa, where I was the regional president of Tennessee for 2014, 2015, and life-changing experiences in there. Towards the end of I did so much work within Phi Theta Kappa, and then I have tunnel vision, I tell these guys. So when you have tunnel vision, and all of a sudden you get to a point in your life where you stop and you turn around, and you have all these people behind you that are looking at you like, what are you going to do next, Hillary? It really is a life-changing moment. And I think I actually saw that come to life when the president of the college asked me to be the commencement speaker for my own graduating class. So really good time there. I definitely credit Phi Theta Kappa and my community college and the faculty there being my #1 cheerleader.
All right. Phenomenal group. Okay, so the way this process is going to work, I know you all have written some questions down on the board that we had out there. So we've taken some of those questions, and I'm going to ask the panel some of those questions, and then we're just going to open the floor up to questions. And so if you, Gabriel, did I say it right? I was going to say Mr. Fantastic, but I was like, no, I probably should say his name. And then Vincent, oh, no. Darcy, yes. Mrs. Wonderful, there we go. They are going to be walking around with the microphones, and so if you have a question that you want to ask, just raise your hand, and they will bring the mic to you. Okay? All right. So to get us started, talk a little bit about, as a transfer student, what has been your biggest challenge or hurdle as it relates to your transitional process? Anybody?
Okay, I'll just jump right into this. I'm 35 years old, so that's a big challenge when you're going into traditional academic aspects. I know that I didn't come right out of high school. I did a great job in high school, but I mean, I had to take the compass test, and then I had to do remedial math because you don't do algebra in the real world. If you're not now I know some of you have professions in that field, but as a mother and a Marine, I was not doing algebra in Iraq. So, so I needed to take that course. And one of the hardest things was finding a sense of belonging, even though I find family wherever I go. Finding an environment where I can be accepted and appreciated is extremely important. I found that in Phi Theta Kappa. I was also in Phi Theta Kappa, so we're like, best friends now.
Sisterhood.
And sisters, right. And then, but when I moved to the 4-year university, a private institute that values the traditional student way more than the transfer student. Up until my point of transfer, everybody had told me and appreciated me. And then when I went into the four-year institution, they're like, oh, no, I'm sorry, you can't join a sorority because you're too old and you're married and stuff and everything. So they're just, you know, there's limitations on what you can do, but they make you think, well, maybe you could participate. And they're like, oh, well, what are you doing here? So that was probably creating the environment of finding the environment was one of the hardest things. And then financial aid also. I didn't have a parent telling me what to do, you know, because I am a parent, actually. I didn't share that, but I have 3 children. So trying to figure out how to navigate that system. I knew I had my GI Bill, but I didn't know that I could apply for financial aid also. So, and that's a Pell Grant that I missed out for a year that I could have been getting that money that really would have helped with a lot of things. So that was probably my hardest, my biggest challenge to overcome was fitting in as a 35-year-old mother of 3 children, former military, you know, Marine. That's where am I going to find my niche in traditional college?
David? Okay. You got the mic earlier, so I just wanted to make sure I'm not cutting him off. I think the biggest part for me was like the overall actual environment of the 4 university. One of the blessings in disguise for me was I didn't think about this being the way it ended up happening, but I took a class in summer school at my four-year institute, and I didn't recognize it at the time, but that actually ended up being a great bridge. I got used to the campus. There was no one there during the summer, so it was just me and, it was just me and then a couple other students, so I had to have a one-on-one with my professors, and it was a really good, intimate environment to what was going to be my 4-year full-fledged university. So getting used to the environment was the hardest thing for me. I think we forget that, you know, we're almost going in as a junior freshman, if you will. So you're like a junior per credit, per experience, they say, but you're actually a freshman as far as the overall environment of a 4-year university goes. So, and then one thing I try and recommend to people is that as a student being thrown into that world, you know, you miss out on a lot of the conversations where the freshmen are talking about professors from, you know, their freshman year, or they have skills and experiences from their intro courses. And a lot of the times you're exempt from these courses and these experiences at transfer, and you're thinking, great, that's awesome, it's one less class I have to take. And they actually ended up contributing wholeheartedly to their overall education experience. So I tell transfer students to just, you know, respect your alternative past. You know, be comfortable in your skin. Don't try and change or erase or be shameful of your past. Because when you can own up to it and be comfortable, then you start adding to their diversity. You start adding to the culture instead of trying to change and fit in. Because the bottom line is you're not a freshman. You didn't get that experience for whatever reason. There's nothing wrong with that. So I try and tell people to just kind of be okay, own up to your past, and contribute that to the environment. Because the environment overall has been the hardest point for me to kind of find my niche in.
So I was academically underprepared from high school, so like I barely graduated. So it was very hard to like go into community college and know how to be successful, know how to write an essay, know how to complete a test. But I think one of the things that was even more stressful was applying to like highly selective universities. So for these highly selective universities, they typically require high school materials. So for example, your high school transcript, the ACT SAT, which forces community college students to take the ACT SAT while they're in community college if they didn't take it during high school, and also a secondary school report, which is essentially where your high school guidance counselor fills out an evaluation form of you. So like when I went to my high school to get my transcript, it just felt very traumatic because the administrator, the guidance counselor, she printed out my transcript from my high school and she was like, wow, your grades were terrible. Like, you know, and she was saying like, you want to transfer to Northwestern? Like you want to transfer to Columbia? Like how's that going to work out, right? So I just kind of imagine like if she was willing to say that to my face, imagine what she's going to write on that confidential secondary school report, right? Oh, how would you rank the student's motivation? Like 0? Like, would you recommend the student for admission? Probably not, right? And community college, it's supposed to be the second chance, right, for students who perform poorly in high school. But these unreceptive universities are not letting us get a second chance because we have to, like, our high school records are following us, right?
All right.
Next question we have is, what one program or service has been the most helpful in making you feel at home?
Well, before I speak, I just want to thank this man in the front row, handsome, elegant guy in the front row, Marshall Lott, and a program that me and Bianca are part of called College Track, because throughout my whole transfer process and throughout high school as well, they've been my support system in making sure not only that I was receiving scholarships and had somebody I can call and talk to at any time, but just making sure that my academics were straight, everything I needed was straight, and just making sure that they were making sure I was handling my business. So throughout my transfer process, it was just that College Track was like my backbone at times where I thought I would fail, or at times that I thought I would be weak. So it's just like, I got to thank College Track for everything they've done, and they've made sure that I was able to succeed. Their whole mantra, their whole mission statement is to have success for people from inner cities or people from low-income areas, and they do just that. So that College Track is definitely.
I would definitely say that the program that helped me succeed was Phi Theta Kappa. And I know a lot of us, that's more of a organization and everything, but if you get the opportunity to become an advisor, I don't know if you're, a teaching position, what all the legalities of that is, but the reason I say that is because it gave me a sense of belonging. And if you have these communities, or even if you create your own honor society for transfer students in there, that would be phenomenal, because it wasn't until I joined Phi Theta Kappa that I really got plugged in, because I would go to class and there would be other students that weren't very academically dedicated like I was, and then I found a home there. They also encouraged me to apply for fall scholarships, so I ended up being #1 in the state of Alabama last year, and then top 20 in the nation with the All-USA academic team, and that supplied me an ability to get scholarships. So then Samford offered me a full scholarship after I said, well, Troy's offered me a scholarship too. And I used that as leverage. So, I was able to be marketable to the four-year university because of that program. And it's because of the advisors and the people that put in all the time and the effort and the money to give us an environment to really succeed.
I also want to thank College Track for helping me through not only my transfer journey, but throughout high school and even getting into college, applying to colleges. I think everyone, like regular students, transfer students, can use someone that will provide those kind of services to you. They actually set me up with an advisor who I talk to every 2-3 weeks, sometimes even on a weekly basis. She just asks, what's going on? What am I planning to do with my summers? How are my courses going? Just, touches base with me all the time. And I can always go to her, ask her questions, or even if I need to talk to her about something that doesn't even have to do with school. They just really help, and I think that schools, maybe they should put something like that into their curriculum. She even helped me I actually went to Haiti on a clinical apprenticeship with the help of my advisor. So I think having that external help to give you even an idea to apply to stuff like that, that's really useful.
Great point. All right, now is the opportunity. We're going to open the floor to questions. And so if you have a question, just raise your hand, and Marcy and Gabriel will come to you with the microphone. All right.
I believe your name is Bianca, I'm not sure. But my question is, coming from San Francisco, why did you decide to go attend a community college in Louisiana? That's far away, so a lot of times we don't think about the students that are coming from out of state. So how did that work for you?
Well, I actually applied. Initially, I applied for Louisiana State University, which is the public university of Louisiana, but I didn't get in right out of high school, so they offered a bridging program where you lived on LSU's campus, but you took classes at the community college, and it was the first year of the program. My year was the first year, and it was a really good program. It had a little bit of downs, but overall it was a great program, and I think that it was a good opportunity because people like David said, like there's some people who don't get into four-year universities right out of high school, or maybe they can't afford it. And although it was expensive still, like more expensive than attending a community college in state, it was still a different experience. And that like extra money, like if you can find it, I think that it's an opportunity that most people don't present to you. So I was still able to go out of state for college, which is what I wanted to do, even though I didn't get into the college that I was planning on going to.
You mind if I answer as well? Okay, so for me, going to Louisiana, it was just a dream of mine. Like, basically, in my neighborhood, I was the person who was looked at like, oh, you have the opportunity to go do something different, see what's beyond San Francisco, and especially since my mom, she had, at the time, I don't think she had even left the state a couple times in her life, but it was just like, basically like a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity to go just do something different. And then I know in San Francisco, a lot of people, they get caught in a cycle where they just like, okay, oh, I'm going to go do something different. Oh, I got this plan, I'll go do it, and they never go do it. So for me, it was just taking that leap of faith and saying, all right, I'm going to go to Louisiana, I'm going to go get an education, and I'm going to just go try something different instead of just doing what everybody else is doing. And it was like, not only was it refreshing, but it was life-changing. Like, I love the experience. I will always do it again. No regrets, even though I had to transfer. Exactly.
Oh, I know we got some questions.
Don't be shy.
There's a lot of questions on that board.
Hi, thank y'all for being here. So I'm curious, if you were an administrator of services that focused on transfer students and you had money to spend, what is a program that you would design?
Yeah, if I could just answer this one initially. I think we need to kind of break it down just a little bit more, and then almost the departments need their own transfer people. I'm in the College of Engineering, and there's nobody. So now I'm kind of being picked out as that token transfer student that's trying to help the other transfer students out. And there's one main guy at our campus. I mean, he's got a team, but he's always my MVP, I call him, because he's the one person I can go to. He's my POC. He's my, when I'm down, I go to him, because he was my first contact. So I feel like I had that relationship with him. But I never see him because he's not in my department. So I think breaking it down to almost having smaller sections, and then, of course, educating the professionals in your department. Because we know not everyone's a transfer student. We can't expect everyone in the department to be a transfer student. So just having them have that knowledge of what it's like and that it's a little different. My first semester was kind of rough, and then I had a talk with my professor about it, and one of the most striking moments for me was the fact that she wasn't shocked that I felt like I was doing bad. She just kind of understood because she's seen this before. As a transfer student, it's easy for us to forget that, we're not the only ones that are doing this. We feel very alone, but there's been people who have come before us. And knowing that my professor still believed in me after all that, after all the doubt I cast on myself for being alone and kind of like the lone wolf, the fact that she was still there and she was like, you can do it, you're fine, chill out. It was a really good, hopeful moment. So I think just educating the individual departments and then maybe supplying them with some transfer-specific people would be beneficial.
You have to use the mic because we're recording. So. Raise your
hand. Hi, my name is Sarah Oliveri. I'm also from California, so whoop. I wanted to ask you a question. I know from my transfer experience as a transfer student, I had a lot of people help me throughout the way, but just wanted to ask you, and any one of you can answer, who was your biggest motivator to transfer?
So Santiago is a part of the Center for Community College Partnerships, and he was at Pasadena City College. And I was at community college for 6 years, and whenever I would go to ask a counselor for help, they couldn't look past my community college transcript. So they would never treat me like I was serious about transferring. But when I came to Santiago, I was a little bit apprehensive at first, so I said all the usual things like, oh yeah, like, sorry that my transcripts are terrible, blah, blah, blah. But he was like, oh, that's not a problem, you know? And like, he treated me like I was an actual human being. So that was something that I was really shocked about. And like, he helped me with the transfer application process. So I think that just having a transfer champion that actually believes in you and that isn't gonna have this deficit perspective of you is really important.
Yeah, just to kind of say exactly what he said, I think we can all name several people that have been our champions throughout this adventure and this journey. The biggest point is that we did have a cheerleader. I think it was Miss Bonita yesterday evening, who mentioned the story about her son and how she, like, that first no he got would have been his ticket to no college degree, but she was there. So just think about how many people who don't have that opportunity. You know, every now and then, it can be very small, you know, it doesn't have to be on purpose. I've had plenty of people in my life that unintentionally planted a seed that have led me to knowing exactly what I want to do, which is a luxury in college in general, where I actually know what I want to do. But I took some random guy that I had no intention of ever meeting anywhere else, who just happened to say something. You know, so don't think your words aren't valuable to anybody just because I know we're a unique bunch and you think you can always like add to their experience. But, you know, just as you guys are all unique too, everything you say may or may not end up being a huge part of our lives later on.
Hi, I'm glad all of you had experiences with faculty or staff who were influential to you, but I'm from a four-year college and I know a lot of us try to run peer mentoring programs for incoming transfer students. Have any of you had a positive experience with a transfer peer mentoring program? And if not, what advice would you have for four-year colleges to help design one that feels authentic and helpful?
Well, the school I go to now, I'm not in a transfer peer mentor program, but I am in a program called High Potential Program. And basically what they do is provide us with a peer mentor who basically aids us in anything we need throughout the year. And one thing that I would really suggest on that is having somebody who is more like, you can come to them in like a professional manner, but just be a friend. Because at the end of the day, what people need sometimes is just that person they could go talk to and be like, hey, I got a whole bunch of stuff on my plate. I got this going on. And they just need somebody to talk to most of the time. So at the end of the day, I know we're coming here, we're going to college for a reason, or we're going to college for an ultimate goal. But at the end of the day, we're still people. So it's like you got to have that personal connection with somebody so you can get to that next level sometimes. And oftentimes, a person your age, a peer, can be your motivator. So it's like they can take you to the next level without even trying to do that, even just listening.
I think definitely the peer mentoring is absolutely essential. We don't have that at my university, but I also work part-time as a recruiter for Samford. They gave me a scholarship and a job. So because they know that I'm passionate about this work and about students succeeding and everything, and like you said, not a deficit perspective, that word right there just really crushes it when it comes to transfer students, because we're already judged, labeled, and put in a box where we're going to end up at. You know, and some of us are privileged to where we can end up in a better box, but it doesn't mean that the potential of another student can't end up in that same box, you know, but we have to be able to maybe coax it out or plant the seed. And at my community college, I did peer mentoring with, you know, my peers, obviously. And the great thing about that was the students would go to advising or financial aid, and they don't know the questions to ask. So then, you know, the advisor is asking them, well, how can I help you? And that's, to me, is so ridiculous because we don't know what help we need. You know, so you need to be telling us what we need to know, and knowing that, oh, you're a sophomore, you need to be thinking about this, but also telling the students about it, like what they need to do. Don't assume that because they're in a community college or, you know, wherever they're at, a transfer student, they know what they're doing. Most of us have no idea, and we've just persevered through it, you know, pushed past it. But those peer mentoring programs are absolutely monumental because right now I'm helping students get admitted, And then I've gotten texts all day with, Erin, where do I get ID cards, or where do I go for parking? Because they don't have that type of transfer center at our university. So they need to, and orientation is also held differently, so we don't have an orientation program for transfer students, and you're not accepted as a freshman. So it's kind of like, okay, well, you're a junior, so you should know everything a junior knows. And it's like, well, no, I'm a freshman, actually. I'm a junior, but I'm still a freshman. So those are absolutely not, but make sure with your peer mentoring that they're actual peers and they're not, just staff members that are mentoring, because there's a different dialogue that happens between students than there are with staff and faculty members.
Hello, my question is for David. It's a two-part question. So the first part is, you said you went to 7 different community colleges. What was your motivation to have you keep going and not drop out, especially when dealing with advisors? And then the second part of the question is, what made you decide to go to UCLA? You talked about how you were interested in Columbia in some sort. So what made you decide to just, I don't know, reach beyond what was being offered to you? Why did you choose to apply to Ivy League schools if you did decide to apply?
Right. So I think your first question was about why did I attend 7 community colleges? So like Alfred mentioned earlier in the earlier presentation, I attended so many community colleges because I needed courses, and there wasn't enough courses at my community college. And I remember one semester, like on Tuesdays and Thursdays, I would commute from one community college to the next community college to the next community college. So I would commute to 3 community colleges on Tuesdays and Thursdays just to get courses. And then in terms of like why 7 instead of just like 3, right? Well, that was because like I kept on changing my major, and then there was only certain community colleges that offered certain majors like radio programs and whatnot. And in terms of like persisting, like I felt like I needed to persist because like I was the first person in my family, and like no one ever believed that I could do anything. So I just felt like, I needed to stay there, even though like for the first 3 years I couldn't pass any of my courses. Like all my transcript was full of W's and F's, but I felt like maybe if I worked less and maybe if I like stopped doing extracurricular activities, maybe I could do better in school. And that's what ended up happening. And in terms of like applying to private universities as well as public, I felt like it was the best thing to do just because you want to keep your options open. And I knew that they weren't going to accept me just because of like my community college transcript, but I decided to apply to Columbia and Northwestern just because they have community college researchers there. And that's the same reason why I applied to UCLA. And I just want to say like huge thank you to like Alfred and the work of like Stephen Hendel that they're doing to make the UC system like transfer receptive, because if the UC system wasn't like that, I don't think they would have accepted me, like just to be honest. But I'm really glad that UCLA now is able to see my potential, and I really appreciate that.
Yeah, I would.
If I could just add to that really quick, I would just like to point out that a common thread through each one of our stories is that we've all suffered from some sort of stigma and some sort of stereotyping, and assumptions kill. They really do. I'm a high school dropout. I have a GED. I didn't finish. I'm a 4.0 student in engineering. So don't assume a thing. And I could still fail, so don't assume a thing. Thank you.
Good afternoon. I want to thank everybody for being here, and you all for sharing your experiences. I'm from a large 4-year institution that is just now coming into the whole transfer market. We've been very successful with first-time freshmen, and we're toying with the idea of doing a transfer seminar course or a transfer orientation. And depending on who you ask, one says one's more successful than the other. So I'm just curious from your experience and maybe anecdotal experiences of your peers, would you have rather done an orientation session, or would you have been interested in a full-on seminar course to take, even though that's additional credit hours and so on?
Okay, so let me tell you what we did at Samford. So the program I'm in, like I said, is an evening and online adult studies program. And our orientation used to be a class that you could pay for. It's a 1 credit hour class that they would make you pay for. And nobody really wants to do that. So what we do is we bring in the students in the evening and we provide them with a meal, and then we give them an orientation type class, and then the next day, it's a 2-day event. The next day we come in and we have breakfast and bagels, and then we go over all the services that are at the university for the student. And then we have tailgating and football. So it's like a real, because you don't know how many times a day I walk around and I'm like, this is a real school. I'm at a real school, you know? They got football. This is a real school. So, you know, but as a transfer student or as a community college, you know, starting, it was college, but it was hard college because you're living your life and you don't really have a community unless you seek it out. So, between a seminar and an orientation, I would choose tailgating.
Just to add to that, just to be honest, like of all the colleges I went to, I never willingly went to an orientation. So I would just, we don't want orientations. We want stuff like, oh, it's a football game at your school. Oh yeah, we going there. Or it's like, we want to retreat or we want to go do something. Like we want that first like a glimpse of college to be something where it's like, oh, you gonna talk about that the whole year? Like, oh, remember we went bowling with everybody and that girl fell and hit her head and almost died? Like you want to hear something like that? Or ate some crab and her eyes got hecka big. Like we want that. Like we want that bonding experience where it's like you go do something and it's like not only did it kind of change your life, but it like broke the jitters. It was an icebreaker. It was a whole bunch of stuff wrapped in one. We don't want to go sit in an auditorium and hear about how great the school is. Like it's like exactly. That's why we came here. We know how good the school is. We want to meet the people now. Like I want you to have fun.
Good afternoon. My name is Matthew Torres. I'm from University of Texas, San Antonio. And my question is, I meet with a lot of community college students, and my question is to you is, what do you tell a community college student that basically lives at the community college and is afraid to transfer over to a four-year institution or to a bigger school? What would be your answer to them?
One of the things is, like I always like to say, is like you got to step out your comfort zone. And to get something you never had before, you got to do something you never did. So it's just like back when I went to the JC in Santa Rosa, one of my roommates, we actually grew up in close proximity. I grew up we grew up in the Hunters Point neighborhood, but he grew up in what was called West Point, and I grew up on Garlington. Come from similar backgrounds, but his mindset was like, oh, I want to stay in San Francisco. I want to do this. But when I came to him and said, oh, you could go to Howard University, you can go do this, you can go do that, his mind opened and he was like, what? He's like, oh, I want to transfer with you now. Like, I want to go where you want to go. But it's just the fact that a lot of people don't know what's out there. So if you provide them with something that shows them like, okay, this is what's out there. You can go to Europe if you want to. You can study abroad. It's just the fact that them knowing it now is like, it's becoming like, it's not fabricated or it's not like something they never heard. It's just like you can't imagine or you can't think of what you don't know about. So it's just like you got to just put it in their face like, hey, I know that home is safe, comfortable, you like your mom's cooking, but listen, if you go to Louisiana, they got crawfish and they got gas stations. They got gas stations with biscuits and chicken, I'm telling you. So go try it. I promise it's great. Yep.
Yeah, just to... He's killing me tonight. First of all, you were my first Nerd Nation for Phi Theta Kappa. San Antonio did an awesome job hosting that, so I really want to thank you for that awesome experience. And howdy. Anyway, I think one of the great things about that is exactly what he said. You've got to be not okay with comfort. A little comfort's a good thing, but if it overstays its welcome, it starts, taking over and almost being like a habit that you can't break. And then it gets harder and harder and harder. So comfort kills, it does in time. So I would just try and inspire them from within. They actually secretly do want to transfer out. They don't want to stay there. I will say that nobody really does want to just be that perpetual college student. They just feel like there's a glass ceiling that they can't break through. So if you teach them how they don't have to there is no ceiling, not that they have to break anything, but that they actually can just go their own way and figure out what they want to do, then they'll be all-stars. They just got to find their niche. When you find your groove, jam to it. It's going to be okay.
Is it okay if I touch base on what that gentleman asked about, transfer seminars? So, like, right now I'm enrolled in a graduate-level seminar called The Sociology of Community Colleges, and we're reading books like The Diverted Dream by Brinton Carabell and The Contradictory College by Kevin Doherty. And the reason why I bring that up is because it's been so empowering just to learn about the vocationalization of community college. And I feel like just like how ethnic studies has been very empowering and beneficial for minority students, I feel like offering community college studies courses would be really beneficial for community college students to be able to not only like counteract the campus climate at the university, but also to be able to remove that own internalized transfer stigma that we have about ourselves, right?
Great point.
Hi, everyone. First of all, thank you so much for your stories. It's really awesome to hear all of your stories. You're all very different, and it's just really wonderful to hear. So thanks for coming and sharing with us. I work at a small private institution in Buffalo, New York, and I'm working admissions. And so just to take you back a little bit, I'm curious on what type of resources that you used when you were searching for your institution. What were those resources? And ultimately, what was that decision that helped, what made that decision for the school that you chose?
Okay, so basically we're talking about money, right? You want to know what because money holds up a lot of people, and it's something that we just have to be blatant and talk about. Otherwise, we're kind of creating this atmosphere of not really talking about, you have dreams, but by the way, do you know your dreams cost you $40,000 a year? So community college and transfer students, there's a slew of scholarships available and things like that. Now, I never felt those limitations because I have the GI Bill. And so I kind of like opened up, like I was like, okay, I can go anywhere. If I'll just, you know, unless it's some crazy, you know, $60,000 a year school, I was like, I can pretty much go anywhere. So by having that mindset of opening it up, that door, then I looked at private institutions. I looked at, you know, I plan on transferring to Duke. And, you know, it's just a wide variety of things that you can do. But the resources, it's funny because I have not used my GI Bill. Like I have used regular financial aid, but also I got all the scholarships through Phi Theta Kappa. So if you do not have a Phi Theta Kappa scholarship available at your institution, you're wrong. And you need to offer that, and they need to be readily available because these are the top quality students. And I know a couple of us are Phi Theta Kappans, and that's exactly what we looked for. Do they have a Phi Theta Kappa scholarship? Is it worth my while? In Mississippi, they have tons of them, and if I did not have kids and a family, I would have relocated to Mississippi because it was pretty much a free ride. So those were the resources that I used. But I also got like Christian education type scholarships, but just having an advisor that tells you where you can find all the scholarships and how to fill out an application, and also be willing to write a recommendation, because there's a lot of recommendations that go along with those scholarship applications or university applications. You know, and you got to have those resources.
Yeah, I just wanted to say, like, I feel like nowadays people underestimate the value of word of mouth or the power of that. And I can honestly say one of the reasons why I transferred to St. Mary's is because a lot of my friends, a lot of my academic advisors in high school, they told me nothing but good things about the school. So if you hear about an opportunity and people are saying, hey, this is where you want to be, why not take advantage of it if it's right in front of you? So I think like what people don't utilize as much now is like the power of the internet, social media, the power of if you actually have a good school, kids are going to want to, oh, I'm going to post a picture here, I'm going to do this here, I'm going to tell my friends about it, and it's just going to spread like wildfire. So that's one of the things also.
This is not a resource that I use, but I think that it would be helpful for students who want to transfer to a four-year university. And it would be like, I know they have like course descriptions and like different things where you can compare a class you took at a community college or a previous college, and you can see if it might or will be accepted by the university you're trying to transfer to. But I feel like a lot of schools, they don't have that like it's not easily accessible, and I think that that could help like someone decide whether they're gonna go to your university, because college is expensive. So like if you're already paying for your community college courses or whatever, wherever you're getting your education from, have to think like if you're going to go to a four-year university and spend 4 or 5 more years there and how you're going to pay for that. So just knowing what classes to take during those years at community college would be helpful to know when you're choosing your university.
All right, we got time for this lady right here, and then in the back. And then that's going to be about it. Oh, I'm sorry.
I had a question about paying for college for students who don't have resources and maybe fall into like the middle class area, let's say, and who don't have a GI Bill, even though I'm very interested in what you had to say. I'm just curious about what inspiration or resources you would direct community college transfers to look into when we do have a Phi Theta cap at our campus, but those are limited as well. And so just any help to encourage and inspire students who may feel like those scholarships aren't applying to me.
So a lot of what we think about is, or I think about, is how many classes can I take? Because even my resources piddle out by the end of the semester, because summer goes in with fall and Jan term goes in with, summer goes in with spring and Jan term goes in with fall. So one thing about is to encourage the student that no matter how long it takes, you can still go. It doesn't, because there's like this kind of loss of communication when we say, oh, well, you don't have the resources to go to school here. You know, they have no financial aid, no GI Bill, no scholarships, no nothing. You know, what are they supposed to do? They're going to have to persevere. But if they have to take one class at a time and pay for it on a payment plan, you need to make that available to them. I don't know how exactly you would do it. Or maybe you need to lower your tuition rates to where they could pay for one class at a time. I'm serious. It's $998 to go to most like private school per credit hour. But if you only took one at a time and you broke it up over, and yes, that's like, you're talking about what, like 10 years to get something? But if they get more classes, then maybe they can start applying for scholarships, and then they can start paying for more. It's getting them in the door and telling them that they can do it. You know, because money's just money. We're going to spend it one way or another. And you will find ways to be provided for if you don't shut that person out to begin with. You know, if they have a strong potential, or offer them a job on the campus. You know, paying $10 an hour for 20 hours a week is better than nothing. And might be able to take a class every once in a while. So a lot of us, we will persevere. So if you tell us that money's, yes, you can't be a full-time student, but maybe you can come and we can build up, keep finding these resources for you.
Yeah, I think the one thing you never want to say is no. Just erase that from your vocabulary. Even if you don't really deep down think they can afford it, don't say, no, it's not likely. You know, as Erin mentioned, there's jobs you can get, there's other scholarships, there's alternative scholarships. You don't have to get federal aid to do this. I do still get federal aid, even though I did end up getting a full ride to Lipscomb. So even full rides don't, cover it all, because there's still textbooks, there's housing, there's food, you got to live, the necessities of life and whatnot. So I think a lot of the issue is that, one, we need to kind of advocate that transfer process. There's people who really do want to transfer, but there's this gap, right? And then if you lose those people in that gap, they're just probably not going to do it. You know, they say when you don't continue college, if you graduate and just take a year off or whatever, unless you're trying to find yourself, I think a lot of people just don't end up going back. And that's a scary thing, because then it gets harder and harder and harder to get scholarship. So I think, and starting early too, a lot of the scholarships, but even the scholarship I got, I didn't really hear about it until, honestly, that same semester. So I was on the tail end of actually applying. So thankfully I had, kicked into overdrive and had resumes and letters of rec. I kept in good contact with all my faculty, so it was easy for me to do that. But I can't imagine somebody who didn't, who just who did well or did, like where the average is, but they didn't really have the kind of resources to talk to their faculty. So they didn't have that opportunity. And so if they have 3 weeks to put in this application, they're not going to do it. So starting early and then just keeping in contact with the gap.
Hi, my name is Sheila Caldwell. I work with Student Success and Diversity at the University of North Georgia. And I really appreciate you all sharing your stories. And as you were sharing the stories, it's very inspiring, but it made connections for me. When I was listening to you talk about some of your challenges, being stigmatized, people questioning your abilities, making a lot of assumptions without knowing you, you're speaking from a transfer perspective. But I'm sure a lot of us have heard, if we had just a group of African-American students on the panel, they would have said the same thing. If we had first-generation college students on the panel, they would have said the same thing. If we had veterans, more veterans, they would have said the same thing. So I just felt like it was a universal message that when it comes to students outside of the norm, looking at it from my perspective as a college administrator, we just do not do a good job of serving people outside of the norm. And it's time for us to really create an education model that serves all students and not students who are, you know, maybe more privileged, who have the money, like you talked about, who have the resources. So I just really appreciate that, because it was just a reinforcement. When we look at the model of higher ed, like what have we really been doing to really elevate, enhance all citizens in our society? And it's clear that we need to do a much better job. So I really appreciate you all reinforcing that and sharing your story.
We appreciate you too, Sheila.
Hi, my name is Audra. I am from the University of North Carolina at Charlotte, and I have been on both sides of the aisle. I was a community college advisor as well as now on the university side. My question to you is in relation to, when did you feel you lost the title of a transfer, or the label as a transfer student? Was there a moment or an event or something that you became the student of the respective universities that you attend now versus being the transfer from?
I honestly still feel like I'm a transfer. So I've only been here a year, but I don't think it ever leaves. You know, I may be wrong, I may get other perspectives, you know, but I feel like I'm kind of both, you know. I feel like I'm part of that community, but I'm still always going to be a transfer, because I honor that kind of background I have. I honor the fact that I bring that different diversity there. So I don't want to lose that title. I do want to lose the bad stigma with it, that's the bad stereotyping along with it. And I think through my own personality and the way I've contributed to the culture and diversity of my campus, I feel like I've actively been crushing that stereotype. And I think that's how you do it, is you just kind of bring the truth out.
I think perhaps, you know, losing that title would be losing part of our identity and what makes us individual and what has helped us persevere. So I don't necessarily think that it's, I don't think any of us would say that we've lost. Can you guys say that? No. So from a collective standpoint, that is what makes us unique and different. But just like anybody that's unique and different, you want to be accepted and be offered the same help. So yes, recognize that we need special help, or we need somebody to come alongside us, but also embrace us into the culture, but don't whitewash us either to say that, oh, well, now you're a part of everybody. Well, I still have 3 kids and I'm a veteran and these different things. So I really think it's important that we treat our transfer students individually, embrace them into the culture, but maybe give them their own culture where they can embrace that identity.
Let's give it up for our panel. Real quickly, I want to recognize a person, Vincent. Where's Vincent? Okay, there he is, raise his hand in the back. He is actually the person that oversees this program, and him and his staff are the ones that kind of do the going through all the applications and choosing the students. So if you have some students that you want to bring that have some really powerful testimonies, get to know this man, because he's the one that's going to be reviewing the applications for that. Also, I want to let you know that the students will be hanging around here afterwards. So if you have some additional questions that you want to ask them, please feel free to do that. And then also I encourage all of you all, possibly some of these students may be interested in going in student affairs, so pull them to the side, introduce them to other people that are here at this conference, because they want to learn just like you want to learn. And so make sure that you're making those connections for them. All right, thank you.
Dantrayl, thank you for that. Well, just a few quick announcements, you all, and we won't keep you long. But again, Hillary, Bianca, Erin, Jordan, David, I think you reminded us on multiple levels just how much our transfer students mean to our institutions, and how much not only do we need to remove barriers to transfer, but barriers to stigma. And I appreciate your honesty and your bravery in speaking with us today. Thank you ever so much. Again, your campuses have these kind of students sitting amongst you. This is a very rich arena from which you can mine tons of data about your own students. So please put panels together for your faculty, staff, and administrators so they hear these stories, and then you can figure out where to go with that on your campuses. We are moving into another session of another block of concurrent sessions. We'll be back in this room at 4:30 for our focus on transfer research. So please go and enjoy the rest of your afternoon. We'll see you back here soon.